big and warm and massive welcome from the Then and Now platform to the entire viewing community globally. Today, as usual, is a very, very special broadcast on the platform Then and Now Media Empire. And on the second day of March 2021, me now na host and presenter, Prince Emil Krumah, they come with a special program on this platform, Then and Now Media Empire. Yes, Sister Safi Patricia Kane, thank you very much. And hi, Sister Nabi Yansane, welcome again, everyone. Appreciate that. Good luck, Junior. Hello here. Hello to everyone, and thank you so much. Do you will ask? Let me shape this program. The program them now are very, very important because the national conversation is on, and a very special greeting to my co-host and very special brother and friend, Mr. Mohammed Kamara Superman. We get a fantastic interview yesterday as part of the national conversation. So we greet una all. Today, we get a man who has already made his mark. You know, when somebody make a mark, it doesn't mean that everybody has to agree. In fact, for make you mark, it means say you get disagreement from some and you get agreement from others. This is how you make your mark. Any argument where everybody just sort of agree, just like I can say on this platform, if you agree with everything, that means you agree with nothing and you are redundant. You mean nothing to the conversation, but you get for disagree because there are imperfections. So like I say today, we get a very special program with a very special gentleman who's made this mark. So they ask una family do ya, una let we share this program wide and far. And despite with differences, let we treat the conversation in a respectful manner with everybody, both to me, the anchor, or the interviewer traditionally, and to we guest. Okay, so the guest we get, just for conventional reason, we'll get for introduce them, because other than that, it don't require any introduction. Na man we don't make a mark. Na we history is well known during the critical time we contributed to go through some difficulties. He was there sending reports left, right, and center. Not all of us agree with the report, obviously, and that's what I was saying from the very beginning. But in the end, this man was working with the BBC, this great BBC. And this man is none other than Mr. Winston Ojukutu-Macauley. Winston, this interview we with the guy so tonight for the very first time been due many months ago. I know say me you talk about this like over 10 months ago, but there were always differences. But in the end, finally, it's happening now, and it's a great thing for both the platform and I believe for the general public. So on this occasion, I want to extend the warm welcome of the Then and Now platform to you. Welcome to the program for the first time, sir.
Thank you, and good evening, good afternoon, good morning to your viewers wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, indeed, we had this conversation precisely in July 2019, and that's how long it has taken us to get to a point where I am here now tonight, and we're having the conversation. Thank you very much for having me.
And you're most welcome and very proud for having you on the platform Then and Now. And I hope say this won't be the last. It's the first collaboration or first interview if you like, but wouldn't be the last. Just before we begin the real thing, I want to pay tribute to comrades of yours, comrades of this business way we do. Not comrades in the APC sense before people then begin for misinterpret them. A larger sort of kind of definition. So Mr. Winston Ojukutu-Macauley is a veteran journalist. He's made his mark. And when the history will be told of the Republic of Sierra Leone in this special profession, of course his name will always be mentioned. So I want to look at people like not only within the jurisdiction who we find ourselves in terms of journalism, but even a little bit beyond. Let's say we want to talk about Desmond Luke, for example, if not the judiciary we want to talk about.
Yeah.
We want to talk about people like Crystal Johnson and many more, people that we lost their lives, quite recently during the revolution, if you will like. Can we pay a little bit of respect to them, because these are people that we understand very much so, sir. These are people that we work with. These are people that we not every time we therefore agree with ourselves, which is a good thing and a healthy thing for with democracy, because this is how we arrive at USA with this. So now many sacrifices has to be made. So like you, this platform, Mr. Macauley, for let we at least pay respect to these people who have passed on to the great beyond, which in some period of time, we too will have to join.
Well, actually, we've lost quite a few number of great men and indeed women in the last few years. But considering the time and the discussions on the table, I think I will concentrate on Crystal Johnson, where his funeral is on Friday, the 5th of March. And of course, Desmond Luke, his lordship, Desmond Luke, he passed away just a few days ago. Indeed, I kind of knew both late men personally. Crystal Johnson, I worked with Crystal Johnson for over 10, 15 years, from 1994 up till just about 2019, just before I left Freetown back. Desmond Luke, the late Desmond Luke, his lordship, is even more personal, because Desmond Luke's, the late Desmond Luke's personal political office, and also his constituency office when he was representing West 3 in Parliament, his regional office and personal office was on top of my house, 17B Wilkinson Road, Ziza Avenue. I was one of the small boys who would come out every Sunday to pull and put chairs and benches around for his meetings with the locals, as we say now. So yes, I knew both men, and the both of them were very fine men. Crystal Johnson made sacrifices for me, and also saved my life. I remember distinctly during the war, we drove up to after my Shaka in my vehicle. They used to call it the White Elephant, both the Rebels and Ecomog, a Mercedes-Benz estate. And there were three of us in the car, plus the driver, Kaba, myself, Crystal Johnson, and Pasco Temple. And as we approached the checkpoint, a young boy under 15 stopped the vehicle and walked over to us with a massive RPG. I was sitting in the front with Kaba, and Crystal Johnson and Pasco Temple were at the back. And this young boy came over, Usauna to go. Myself, with my own big mouth, I simply just dismissed him and said, "We are journalists, we're going up the road, we're just looking what is happening." Of course, in Creole. And he said, "Una wait." He walked back to his superior. Whatever happened, he came back. Dead silence. Usauna to go. Who don't know you? Who don't know you? Who don't know you? I dismissed him again. I said, "But we're not journalists. We can't go. They go just to look what happened at the area." He went back, spoke to his superior, turned his back towards us, cocked his gun, the RPG, and then Crystal Johnson tapped me on my shoulder in his usual voice. "Ojukutu, don't say nothing again. Listen to me." Before the rebel could get to my side of the vehicle, Crystal Johnson said, "Colonel, morning, sir. We're just coming around to pay our respect and to just look what is going on." "Yes, sir. How are you, sir?" And the rebel, under 15 years old, he says, "So the party all this thing and this small body fit me inside the motorcar. I for kilo no, and indeed he would have done it. That's the experience. Crystal Johnson saved us that day. Cut a long story short, when I reported the breaking news that the rebels were advancing to Freetown and that it was just a question of time they will enter Freetown, December 1998, I was arrested, charged to court for libel, warmongering, you name it. And I was refused bail for 3-4 days. Nobody would sign for me. Journalists, some of the journalists now who are in Sierra Leone or even outside of Sierra Leone, wrote stories saying that Solomon Bewa should lock me up and throw the key into the big deep sea because I'm a warmonger. No rebel is coming to Freetown. Crystal Johnson, Kelvin Lewis, and I think Reginald Stresser King went to the same front, spoke to the only paramount chief, local chief, not even paramount chief, the only chief who was around there, around Lunsar it was, and confirmed that yes, I was there, and showed the guys where the rebels were basically using the routes they were using to enter Freetown. They came back to town, they confirmed that yes, indeed, no one still believed. And eventually, Crystal Johnson made sacrifices and got me out. I was to go to court on the 8th of January, 1999. The rebels entered on the 6th of January. And then everybody started, hey, Ojukutu talking, it's not a lie, Ojukutu talking, it's not a lie. So Sierra Leone, as I keep saying, it's a profoundly wicked and hypocritical society. And I'll keep saying that. And as the late Jackson Smith may say some time back, anyone who is familiar with Jackson Smith, say, you know, the pool vest for Salomon, it is still the same today. So it's a shame I'm not in Freetown to pay tribute to him personally, because we were very close. We were very close to a point that even my vehicle was with him 24 when I'm not using my vehicle. My vehicle will stay in his compound. That's how close we were. I mean, basically from 7 in the morning till 10 for over 4 or 5 years, we were together. That's how close we were. So I pray that God would give him a safe passage and may so rest in perfect peace. With regards to the late Chief Justice, Desmond Luke, another distant, well-bred Sierra Leonean, also made sacrifices, lost a lot of very important legal books and documents when the rebel burnt his office at Lamina Sanko Street, and indeed his house at Spur Road. And he was the only one of, in fact, very few who stayed around during the AFRC notorious regime. It was at a point when he was almost, well, they chased him out basically the last minute, and then he went to Guinea. And Solomon Bewa, the late Solomon Bewa, and of course the late President Kaba tried to get him to be Chief Justice. He refused. Traveled to the UN, to the Commonwealth and UN to convince them to get somebody else. But he was persuaded. In the end, he became Chief Justice. But before that, he's the only minister to date who resigned from government, serving under Shekhar Stevens over the North and South Korea issue. He resigned from office, stayed in parliament until 1983. And even after I retired, he stayed in Sierra Leone, very quiet. During the last days of the APC in 2017, 2018, I used to engage him up at his place at Spur Loop. And then, of course, his wife, Auntie Monica, at Lamina Sanko Street. But he too is gone now. So another fine soul, may his soul rest in perfect peace.
Good.
Yeah.
This was quite necessary, especially when we pay homage to friends, comrades, compatriots.
And of course, Pat Sharif as well. May so rest in perfect
Yeah,
peace.
exactly. And this
Well,
is
another fine journalist. Yeah.
Because
Pat
there are
Sharif.
many friends, there are many work colleagues that we've
Yeah.
lost along the way. That sometimes,
Yeah.
Time is not even enough for let we pay respect to every one of them. It's not really enough for let we pay much respect to every one of them.
The two Fofanas,
I give so much time in a broadcast or interview or conversation,
Lance
which
Fofana.
is so kind of limited in terms of the time. But I think you've done a great job, and this is quite necessary because what this does is it frees up we mind. At least we've done something publicly in our own weak way, because this is a process that we all will go through. One thing I do know is like the body perishes, but the soul lives on, and it's a process that we all will have to go through. So, dear Papa God, sorry for we all. Thank you so much. Amen. Brother, let me go straight, here to some serious issues, and this is not very much serious, but necessary for let you address, because I know throughout your illustrious career, you must have addressed this issue many a times, or you must have heard it either in passing or in serious conversation. And this is the issue of your affiliation despite your profession, because sometimes it can good for that we separate both. Despite profession, but there is this talk about affiliation with you being APC, which you can be, but there is a difference between your profession and the party affiliation, not necessarily APC or whatever organization. So try for separate these two for Weeba and this platform here today, because as soon as I put the fire up, many of these conversations come back to me, oh, not this, oh, not that, which I wasn't interested in, but for just carrying a national conversation out, I decided to listen and say, I will put this to you.
I am not politically correct as one of a professor we were discussing this morning. I'm doing a program at a university, so there was a discussion with a professor who does radio drama, and there was this discussion, and she said, I'm not politically correct. I say, I'm not politically correct either. I am not politically correct. So I will make the statement direct that most of the people who tend to talk about journalists being politicians talk about these things or say these things out of ignorance, because I'm sorry, with the greatest respect to anyone who thinks that way, but if you think that way, that means you're very ignorant, because from going back to as far as I can go, without exaggerating, 70% of past and present world leaders were at one time journalists or lawyers, including the British Prime Minister today, Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is a trained journalist and then went on to become Prime Minister of Britain. Obama was editor of the Harvard Law Review, and he classified himself as a journalist. John F. Kennedy was a journalist. Winston Churchill was a journalist. Bonaparte, the French leader, was a journalist. I can give you a list of them.
Boris Johnson of now.
Yes, Boris Johnson of now. And I can even tell you that we even have a situation. I suspected this issue would come up. So I did a small research, and I'll just read a line for you here, which says, the egomania of journalists who think that they can do better, who think they can be better politicians and journalists, is matched by a slew of former elected officials who believe they can be better journalists. So it works both ways. For instance, we have Michael Potello, who for many years was a British parliamentarian. In fact, at one time, I marked to succeed Margaret Thatcher. He's now a journalist. So I don't want to waste time with that issue of saying, oh, the journalist is out of ignorance. And if you're an ignorant, I don't waste my time with you. So let's go to another issue.
Thank you very much. At least you've addressed that, and you don't make good examples then of prominent politicians, both of the then and the now, who once upon a time implied the trade as such, but they were equally politicians, and they make their marks, and not only politicians, but belong to a different kind of group. So yes, thank you so much, and I really appreciate that. What I want to follow you do for we, if you can, now for construct a construct, if you can, between journalism of yesterday, journalism of today, journalism then, journalism now. You are a veteran journalist, you apply your trade during a critical period of time. Of course, that was a period of time where print media, you know, you have been the cell, in other words, newspaper. Now people let me they look
no
up
social
to.
media.
Yes, sir. But coming to now, there are many differences. And since you've lived through those ages, can you share your experience with me as to the then and now within the context of journalism, please?
Well, it's simple. When I started journalism, we have the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. You know, now we have 2 A's as well. In America, excuse my French, the editor will ask you, are you kidding me? That's the A. Am I dreaming when you submit a story? That's another A. And then you have the O's and the S's, which is like seriously, this is happening. And then of course you have the 3 H's now, which is, how did this happen? Have you got no shame? And then there's one more, which is before I go on, and then there's one more. Is there no respite to what is happening? So that is how much journalism has changed. So it is no longer the 5 W's. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, you have what you call citizen journalism now. You know, now any Tom, Dick, and Harry, with the greatest respect, can get up tomorrow morning and start a blog. And you have some who are very successful. You have some who are also very controversial. You have some who people don't know about. So at the time I started journalism in 1979, November. 1979. In 1983, I was the youngest editor in Sierra Leone, the Mirror newspaper. Yes. And those days, it was purely print. And then you have, of course, SLBS. And then, of course, internationally, we only had the BBC then. Of course, now we have BBC, CNN, and all this other outfits. So journalism has changed drastically. But what has not changed is you saying the truth. The truth. You publishing the truth remains the same demand, which is when you have a story, you check the story, you confirm the story, you reconfirm the story, and be certain that it is the truth, and no fear, no favors. And it is because sometimes people are uncomfortable with the truth. That is when you have issues. People say, "Ebo Nalaiman, Ebo not a better journalist." That is where the conflict is. The truth. The truth is a bitter pill. That hasn't changed and will never change. That's the difference.
Okay. The truth never changes, because that's I understand the line that you've just drawn. Of course, there are differences in terms of print media then and the now. But the common denominator is the truth, and that never really changes.
That will never change.
So thank you very much, Mr. Macauley. So let's understand something, or make way for understand something, okay? Now, you are considered to be a veteran journalist, and you've made your mark. One of the things that will be classified as luxurious, if you go allow me for use that kind of terminology there. Now, also, you imply you trade then.
Yeah.
And this goes to somebody where now a journalist in the country, highly respected because of the institution where they work for. This goes to Mr. Umaru Fofana. But Mr. Umaru Fofana, you happen for be the immediate, Umaru Fofana happen for be the immediate predecessor. I hope I didn't get it kind of twisted.
No, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely. He came after you.
Correct.
Let me
understand. In fact, he's the longest serving BBC correspondent in Sierra Leone to date.
Brilliant. So you see, we did try for set the record straight on this platform. And luckily, you see, we get serious-minded people on the platform. So let me try for understand this. You know, yeah. Create this picture for we. What is it working for the BBC? Whether you're a stringer or waiting at the different, you know, your kind of level in which you can work for BBC. Like when you work for the BBC, then what was your sort of role or title that was expected of you as opposed to Mr. Umaru Fofana? Is there something different that he's doing now, which you were doing then? Because remember, the context of this entire
no. The only difference, the only difference is that the salary scale has gone up.
Okay.
That is the only difference. Umaru is doing exactly what I used to do. And also, then we had Network Africa. We also had 3 editions of Focus on Africa. Now we only have Focus on Africa. So I would say those of us, myself, Lance Fofana late now, and the other Fofana as well. And of course, I took over from Victor Silva. We were doing more work than Umaru is doing now. But Umaru is fortunate to have, of course, as the trend is that more salary. But the thing I want to talk about more is this I would call it a very reckless attempt by certain people who were trying to persuade the BBC to sack Umaru Fofana. The BBC World Service is part of the British Foreign Office. It is different from the BBC we watch here in England, you see. The British Foreign and Commonwealth Office runs or supervises BBC World Service, which means it is part of the British government foreign policy. You see, a lot of people don't know this, you see. So when you start dictating to the BBC World Service and its various branches that we don't like this man, sack him. In fact, that's the time they say, wow, this guy is doing a fantastic job. I went through it when the late UN representative, Francis Okello, had a meeting with the RAF and AFRC at Cape Sierra Hotel, and it was embargoed. There were no journalists were accepted or allowed into the meeting. I paid £50, British pounds. I gave somebody £50 to go in with a tape recorder for me. The person went in, recorded the meeting for me, and then came out again. And that was when I got the statement that the rebels do have legitimate concerns, and those concerns should be addressed. And then President late President Kaba and his government, of course, were in Conakry, Guinea. And Julius Spencer was Minister of Information. And Dr. Shalibu Jama
Mr. Macauley, I want to let you hold your thoughts right there, because I will come back to that. I promise you that surely, but I just want clarification on these things, certain things. So you talk about the BBC and the way it functions, because now that's how the one let family understand, because some time ago you touched on that. There was a protest, and Sierra Leoneans, some quarter of Sierra Leoneans, they express their dissatisfaction as to
which
how
you have the right to.
BBC man when they operate on the ground. They make some salacious accusations of him and ask the BBC possibly whether they can relieve him of them duties in there, because he's found to be a conflicted man or a compromised man, if you will like. So now this now I want to let you clarify to Fambule, because you've been trying to give me the inside knowledge of how it works. You know,
So that's what I was coming to. So what happens is very exactly what happened with Umar Fofana is what happened with me, because when I reported that meeting, Julius Spencer, who was information minister, and of course Solomon Berewa, requested or demanded that the BBC removed me from Sierra Leone, that I should no longer work for the BBC. Not only did the BBC played the recording of Francis Okello. Then we had this, what is now Radio Democracy 98.1. By then it was a pirate radio station run by Ali Bangoa, Julius Spencer, and of course my darling sister Anna Fuller. They used that radio station. They got the country so hyped up to a point that I was threatened that if I had gone out, I would have been killed. I cried like a baby when I was talking to the British High Commissioner. For 2 days, I couldn't come out of my house because the radio station, Radio Democracy, went out and said, when you lie, you don't Ojukutu. So they will be on the radio saying, "Bu no Ojukutu naya," because they claim that Francis Okello never said what I reported, only for the BBC to play the recording, the voice recording of Francis Okello. And then the issue came back to, why are you requesting for Ojukutu to be sacked? You cannot request or demand for Ojukutu to be sacked. Ojukutu works for the BBC. Ojukutu doesn't work for the government of Sierra Leone. And the only reason why you're demanding that Ojukutu should be sacked is because Ojukutu is not reporting how you think or what you think Ojukutu should be reporting. We don't work like that. That is what is happening with Umaro Fofana. Umaro Fofana, there will come a time, if he continues to work there, there's a change of government, and he continues to report, they will say Umaro Fofana is supporting that party. You see, the fact, like I said, when I was talking about journalism, the truth, the bitter truth, nobody can handle the truth. If you cannot handle the truth, definitely what he or she is reporting is fake. That is as simple as that. And the issue that Umaro Fofana is partisan, I think is a very wicked thing to say. And I know him personally. I will not brief for him, but I don't believe Umaro is partisan. You have to remember that the other issue that people don't understand, Umaro Fofana can submit 10 stories for the next 15 days. It is the prerogative of the BBC to accept that story. It is not Umaro Fofana who is going to insist on BBC accepting the story. So sometimes, even most times, there are stories that Umaro Fofana would have submitted, but it's of no interest to the BBC. So they won't take it. So you, the ordinary...
Okay, Mr. Macauley. I get you and I feel you. But at the same time, you were not the man on the ground.
Yes.
You already understand Uskan's story, which is newsworthy. It's about newsworthy. That's what the BBC will be interested in.
No. That is what,
okay.
That is where you missed the point.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you something now. I'll give you a typical example. The Nigerian girls that were kidnapped 2 days or so ago made it to all the news channels worldwide, right?
Yep.
Are you aware that last week the Nigerian government came out with a policy for infrastructural development to the tune of over $3 billion? They're going to build a railway that will take you from one point to across the state of Niger to the Republic of Niger. Are you aware that the money include building new bridges and everything? Not one media organization, apart from the Financial Times, reported that.
No, but you're talking about the Nigerian government. I was
no. I'm talking about the interest. What is newsworthy to the Western media? It is nothing to do with whether yourself. It is what is of interest.
But you've just used the Nigerian press for a Nigerian story.
Not Nigerian press. No, not Nigerian press. Listen to what I said. 2 days ago, schoolgirls were kidnapped in Zafara, or wherever it is, in north of Nigeria, right? It made international news worldwide. Okay? Last week, the Nigerian government came out with a budget policy of over 2 to 3 billion to completely change the face of the infrastructure of Nigeria. It was not reported in any international media outlet, with the exception of the Financial Times. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is, it is what is of interest to the BBC and the international media houses that is published or broadcast.
Yeah, Mr. Macauley, I get that. But how is this different in terms of the question I asked or the analogy that you're trying to make? Because that's the point I'm trying to make.
What I'm saying to you is,
the news has to be newsworthy. And the kidnapping of girls in Zamfara is newsworthy, but it's at the discretion of the BBC for many different reasons. It could be political.
I like the word you use, discussion. It is newsworthy. What many Sierra Leoneans are complaining about is that Umaru Fofana is not reporting the many quote unquote, and of course, factual things you and I know about, incidences, atrocities, abuse of human rights, etc., that is happening in Sierra Leone. He is not reporting them on the BBC. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that, for instance, he reported about the accident along the Bombali highway the other day. It is newsworthy to the BBC. So they broadcast it. In fact, it was one of the leading stories. Now, it is also possible that 2 weeks ago, something of interest, far more important than, of course, his death. I'm not saying their death is not important, but just as important or crucial as that accident, Umar Vona could have submitted, could have submitted that story. The BBC is not interested. They will not take it. They will not broadcast it. But you in Sierra Leone will assume that Umar Fofana has not submitted that story. Are you following me? Are you following me? It's like, let's take for instance the incident at Pademba Wood Prison. There are certain angles of that story that the average Joe public would have expected Umar Fofana to report on. And indeed, Umar Fofana would have submitted it. But to the BBC, it is not newsworthy. And I'll give you a very personal one between Umar Fofana and myself. There was a time, 2018, after the elections, when there was a bread scarcity in Freetown, right? Now, for 2 or 3 days, because of flour, we were short of flour in Freetown or in Sierra Leone. Now, people, this was just after the SFP came to power, 2018, 2019. People were expecting Umar Fofana to have reported that story, that barely a few months after the SFP came to power, suddenly there's bread scarcity in Sierra Leone. Now,
so Mr.
Let me land, please. Umar Fofana lives somewhere in the eastern of Freetown, and actually got up that morning and bought bread in his own vicinity, in his own local area. And indeed, he wanted to file that story. But they asked him a very simple question. Did you or did you not got bread that morning? He said, yes, I got bread. So it is not news.
I'm going to say this to you with all which you don't say. I'm going to say this to you. But before I just say this to you, it's don't
hold back. Feel free. Go back.
But before I say all of this to you, the people themselves, know waiting a newsworthy story.
Correct.
The breaking of a maximum security prison is international news automatically.
Correct.
The suppressing of that jailbreak and the killing is of interest to the international world. Even nations that we not even they put penny inside salon, because why this story is enticing, is a good story. It makes a good storyline. So you now bring what I want to put down. So you now, as the reporter on the ground, can decide for report on that story day, or even when you report on that story day, you can decide on how you want to report on them. This is where you begin to sex up the story, if you can allow me, with that language, or massage the story for put them out there.
Well, I would not, like I said, I hold no brief for Umar Fofana. But what I'm
I
trying
don't
to
want to make this subject matter. I can understand why Mr. Fofana in name they come inside so many
okay,
times
all right, fine,
because he's
okay,
the man of the
okay,
moment. But
okay,
we can
okay. What I'm
down a little bit and just talk about like generally. Let's talk
like I
about
said,
news story generally. Yeah,
like I
if you know
said,
what I mean.
like I said, like I
Yeah.
said, even within the UK and even in most parts of the other world, part of the Western world or civilized world, how you want to call them, within your area, you will witness an incident and you will say, wow, I will see this in the news tonight. And you will go home and you will not see it there. It is the discretion of the editor of the day. It is what the editor wants. It is not what.
So allow me quickly for interject on that point there because this is exactly waiting on my point. So because it becomes the discretion of the editor on the day, so therefore the people themselves get opinion say waiting the discretion where the editor use something is wrong. Will you agree with that on the spot?
I will agree with that, but so you don't blame the messenger.
Oh, okay. So we don't blame the messenger. So I think we got a consensus on that, and I understand that, and I believe the viewing audience does understand that because
don't
then
blame the
when
messenger.
Mr. Ojukutu-Macauley been work for the same organization, the same institution, of course he using discretion on waiting in one report, depending on what the situation is,
No,
or whose
not
contact
me.
he get, or
Not
whether
me.
it's Sabi.
Not me. Not me on the correction. Not me on the ground. For me on the ground, as a reporter, because even the editor at the end of the journalism, you are a reporter. Me, the reporter, I get excited when I see story, and the man around me and the people around me say, "Wow, that's a news story. That's a fantastic story. That's a bad incident. You should report it." And I will go out and gather all the material, and I will file the story. But when I file a story, it is the discretion of the editor to determine whether that story is good or bad, or whether he or she wants that story. That's what I'm saying. So it is not for me. I don't determine the last point. The person who determines the finality of that story is the editor.
Yeah, okay. I get that, Mr. Macaulay, and I think the rest of the audience gets that because this is what I was trying to arrive at. So despite you want to make the editor clean, the editor get discretion in which he can decide, say, for different reasons. As I mean, Mr. Macaulay the defense minister. This story in the defense minister when I'm a party in interest. So because me na the points man I waiting I say for a while that's what's gonna be. So it gets influence over that. That's all I'm trying to establish.
Well, I wouldn't sign on that.
No, I don't expect you to sign on that publicly because that means you're going to compromise certain integrity. I get it. No, we all know where we are.
I won't sign on that.
Yeah,
yes.
I get you, Mr. Macaulay. Many thanks for that, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are having an interesting conversation here, and in the conversation, they turn out to be as interesting as we've been expecting for be because the guests they quite enjoy the program, and I enjoy the program too, and I'm sure you are. So we ask now we continue for share because the conversation, the national conversation has begun. It began a long time ago, and it's on and it's picking up steam. We don't want for anybody to be left out. Because we want to let people read the conversation themselves first hand, we don't want second hand, because we don't want to let you can begin the talk, say, Naso Musu bin tell Albert, where Albert can tell me, say, Sampase. No. So you read the conversation for yourself. So at this point in time, we talk to a veteran journalist. And when I say the word veteran, I use the capital V, none other but the household name. You can disagree with him, but of course, that's what he is, Mr. Winston Ojukutu-Macauley. And Mr. Macaulay, welcome to the program. Again, just shortly before I come back to you, just want to recognize few people in the chat room. Thomas Banks, innocent people were killed, but Umaru never reported that issue. And remember, say, I'm not just speak on that one, I just scroll down and that come down.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
First time. And Dolly Tarawali, Umaru is party picking Thomas Banks, Umaru always reporting in favor of Power Focus. Well done, Mr. Blah, blah, blah. Focus Diaspora. Ojukutu just made a fool of himself. Now with those silly comments, I don't know which comments they refer to, and many other people the way they watch the program. But like I say, this is interesting. There are a couple of programs the way they happen, in a philanthropic way, which is Sister Safi Fitzgerald Kane is running a program in the Southeast, specifically in Sodok, in which they feed people at this point in time during this pandemic. There are so many of us where they suffer. It's unbelievable that this sister on your meager resources they use for contribute for feeding the homeless. The homeless rather.
What's her name?
Sister Safi Kane. Her name is Safi Kane, yeah. Doing quite well in Sodok. They cook for the homeless, them people that we can't afford. And she can't even cope because there are so many people. Imagine nationally, inside the statistics of Britain, how many people in the key up in a soup kitchen. It's gone up. And this sister inside the Southeast, of course, there's a lot
I was shocked. I was shocked when I...
Yes,
shocked.
So it is right. So we need for support the sister. I will get this time website, I will get in contact number. If not 5 pounds, if not 1 pound, because I cook now, they cook just for feed people. She's been doing this for a while, and the food not even enough the amount of people that we can turn up. So please, family, let we try for get in touch with Sister Safi Fitzgerald Kane for let we assist them in this humanitarian gesture. Sure enough, we don't have to wait for others to do this for us. We can do it ourselves, and this is one of ours who is doing it. Anyway, family, we get brother Winston Ojukutu-Macauley, a household name. So, Winston, we get this. If you don't mind me calling you Winston.
No, go ahead, please. No problem.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. If you don't mind me, which of course you don't. I want to move within the same spectre and in the same vein about whistleblowing. Waiting, I think, is that there's a culture change. There is something about a cultural change ongoing in our country. There is a paradigm shift. We are witnessing a time where something of this nature, what they witness and see, has never happened, or even if it had happened, because it's possible that in your time, because you're a veteran, such things happen, but you're not being get this kind of magnitude, this kind of scale where we see. So hence I call it a cultural shock and a paradigm shift. A whistleblowing, if we want to attribute them to say, you're like the Africanist press is the equivalence of WikiLeaks. So we call them safer leaks. If we want to call the main face for the leaks, Chernobyl, the Julian Assange. I wonder what you view about exactly what happened so now when me the term as a culture change and a culture shock. Giving you perspective, please, Mr. Winston.
Well, first of all, let me say kudos to Chernobyl for the wonderful job way to do, because unfortunately, the society where you and me come out, because of poverty and too much partisan and of course ego, some of the issues that needs to be revealed or discussed in our national conversation never takes place. And fortunately, Mr. Chernobyl lives in America, and he has been fortunate enough, whether by hacking or by whistleblowing, to have access to some very powerful and very, 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 very powerful.
What's in a whistleblowing? Define for what's in a whistleblowing as we understand them, and then you can carry
whistleblowing,
on because we need
whistleblowing,
to please.
Whistleblowing. It was whistleblowing that led to the demise of the tablet newspaper, the first newspaper I worked for. Whistleblowing is a typical incident where somebody, for instance, at the Bank of Sierra Leone or the Ministry of Finance would have access to documents like the ones Chino is now publishing. And that individual, he or she would then see and then go through this document, and then he or she will say, no, this is too much. No, this is too much. And then he or she will then find a means or a way of actually giving it to a journalist, most times a journalist, who would have the skills, because it is not just a question of revealing or handing over or disclosing that, oh, this is and this and this is what I know. You have to have the skills, you have to have the knowledge to actually come out with this information so that the impact, you have the impact that is necessary, that is needed, which of course we have with this African Express. So whistleblowing is basically secretly disclosing information to journalists most times, or in other cases to lawmakers, to report or to disclose wrongdoings that, in the opinion of the individual, what he or she has witnessed is bad. And I will go further. If you could help me, I'll just give you permit me. It says here in the Financial Times, silence isn't golden. Whistleblowers are. So whistleblowers are people who keep quiet. They don't talk. They simply act. They take information and they give it to either journalists or the law to expose a crime or a wrongdoing. In the case of, it is not the first time it is happening in Sierra Leone that end up having devastating effect. The tablet newspaper, of which I started my career, had access to documents from Lloyd's Bank about the late MK Schumer and SLPMB. And it was because the tablet newspaper was going to publish information relating to the conduct of the SLPMB account in London. That was why tablet newspaper was blasted out of existence. So it is not the first time it is happening. But what is happening now is so devastating that it's a great credit to Mr. Chernobyl and the whistleblower, of course. I hope that explains.
Okay, so great credit to the whistleblower and Mr. Chernobyl, which is it is a good thing, and I'm sure you sort of acknowledge, you work with and you do.
Yeah, like I said,
go on, Winston.
You, the individual, you, the press, or you, the law, that the whistleblower is going to hand over these documents to. Like, for instance, it was whistleblower who finished President Nixon. The Watergate. Watergate is due to whistleblowing. Somebody disclosed or revealed the information to journalists. That's how former late President Nixon ended up resigning from office. It is whistleblower. It is not the journalist. The whistleblower got the information, deep throat, as they called him by then, and then handed over the information to the journalists. And you have to have the skills. That is one. You have to be credible. Because, you know, if those information were not act, right? Because it is also possible that those information were act. But let's assume that they were not act. And then somebody take them from either Bank of Sierra Leone or one of the institutions in Sierra Leone and handed this over to China. If China was a corrupt person, all he could have done was, hey, well, get a document here. That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
So you have to be credible. One, you have to have the skills to utilize, to use the document to create the kind of impact those documents are creating now.
Thank you very much. And that takes me to my next question in terms of the same whistleblowing, because what I'll take from what you just said just now, it's like you deeply appreciate the fact that whistleblowing does exist. And when it exists, it sounds like it's in the greater good of either a country or a people. So how do you see this whistleblowing they play out now, the country, your country, Sierra Leone, in terms of the general body politic?
Well, it is unfortunate. it is unfortunate because I remember 2017, 2018 during the campaign, myself and the late Dr. John Musa. There were times when we were told that, the SLPP government coming in, led by President Bio, are going to do great things in Sierra Leone. One of the saddest parts of what is happening now is that I don't think they really understand the disappointment of the average Sierra Leonean. I use the word disappointment, I will not stretch it there. The hopelessness in that country, and over the years, people were really hoping and of course praying that the SLPP government would transform Sierra Leone. Only it is simply na parable say the pot they call the, which they can say the firewood or something they call the pot black or something like that. It has come back to the same accusation they thrown at the APC is what is happening now. And the saddest part of it is that this is within 2 to 3 years. It is happening. And we have people who are out there trying to defend what has happened. It is a very, very sad and unfortunate situation in Sierra Leone because at the end of the day, too many people are suffering in Sierra Leone. Too many people are suffering. And every day, people like ourselves are on social media or on these platforms complaining, but nothing much has changed. Nothing much has changed. It is the same thing that's happening now, even within the APC party. We'll talk about that. But Sierra Leone, for some reason, has been unfortunate because we continue to have poor leadership and people who don't seem to have the country at heart. It is a very, very sad situation. And I don't see much changing because the public, for some reason, I don't want to say it is illiteracy or not being educated. I think the level of poverty and also the level of ignorance continue to eat the fabric of our society to a point that every Tom, Dick, and Harry from both parties or from all the political parties wants to be president of Sierra Leone. That's how sad it is today. That's how sad it is today.
Okay. Okay. I did observe a thing or two while you were making those points, but I'll come to that shortly. Just quickly, a respect to a few people on the platform. So Suma Abdullahi, Kadiatu Mariama Kamara, MW Ja, Fatima Conte, Tamba Koma, Thomas Banks, bravo to her, Focus Diaspora. To clarify my previous statement, I was referring to him defending Umaru Fofana. Okay, that's back to the guy who said, who made a statement earlier on, to Umaru Fofana, because they are friends. He's alluding to you being friends with Umaru Fofana, which is not strange anyway, but I guess he's implicitly trying to say, because you're friends, so therefore you're trying to defend him. I can't defend that, I don't know. With all the things that have been happening in our country, you cannot just turn a blind eye. Damage uncontrollably reported by Umaru by stating wrong number of deaths. Yeah, and I will come to that. We'll go to that again. Okay, thank you for that, Focus Diaspora. Tamba Koma is watching all the way from the USA. Tamba, welcome to the program. Please share the gospel in the USA. Many thanks. Brother Daniel Rogers, you are a whistleblower if you are a worker and you report certain types of wrongdoing. This will usually be something you have seen at work, do not always www.gov.uk. Okay, I think the brother was trying to help us to understand what a whistleblowing is. And he gave a reference according to the government of the UK. Many thanks for that, Brother Rogers. Patient Jonah Bestman is watching all the way from Monrovia, and I appreciate you, Sister Jonah Patience. Please share the good gospel in Monrovia. Desmond Conte, very unfortunate, and I think this is what Brother Winston was saying. Thomas Bank, Kettle Black, very sad. Dorothy Awuno Gordon is watching. Hassanito Kamara is watching. Superman Kamara is watching. Dolly Tarawali. I wonder why people believe that BO will have done better than what is happening now. Of course, we don't have the insight to see in the future. We can look at other items, other issues, but then...
I will tell you why they failed.
Okay.
It's very simple. Very, very simple. You don't govern with malice.
Okay, Winston, I want to hold your thoughts there, because as soon as you say you don't govern with malice, because there is something coming with regard to that, so that you will just address your kind of once and for all. But I want to go back to this issue of governance between the then and the now, because this entire program is about the then and the now, and you don't play your trade for decades. You don't play, you've seen it, you've been there, you've seen it, and etc. So you know which thing they talk about. Mr. Macauley, in terms of your trade and all that discipline where you've seen in plying your trade, waiting you will tell we fumble them the difference between the then and the now.
You see, the then and the now is with regards to Sierra Leone. It's very simple. I have noticed, especially with Sierra Leoneans in the diaspora, always blaming. This is not partisan. I'm just stating the fact here, whether people like it or not. Always blaming APC, that APC governed the country for over 18, 20 years. That is why the country it is what it is today, blah, blah, blah. Failing to realize that when Sheikh Stevens declared the country a one-party state, which was a kind of a general thing right across the board in Africa, the Caribbean, and certain parts of Southeast Asia, it was both the SLPP and the APC, with the exception of the late Manakmaka. The entire SLPP structure, political class, joined Shaka Stevens in governing Sierra Leone for well over 15, 16 years. The likes of the late Saleh Adjusu Sharif, God bless his soul, went up to being vice president in Sierra Leone. The late MS Mustafa also went up to being vice president of Sierra Leone. Sama Banya was also vice president of Sierra Leone. My own great friend, SB Mara, these are all staunch, born and bred SLPP who joined Shaka Stevens' APC government when Shaka Stevens declared the country a one-party state. The present Secretary General of the SLPP, Prince Hadi, contested election in Bo under the APC banner. So what we have in Sierra Leone,
revelation.
Sometimes I just go through some people's messages on social media. Like the other day, I was paying tribute to Desmond Luke after Lansbury, another fine journalist, published a piece. No, Lansbury is alive. No, I'm talking about Desmond Luke. Lansbury published a piece about Desmond Luke. So I was kind of saying Desmond Luke was a great man, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody just cut off the conversation and say, Desmond Luke left for the SLPP Chief Justice. And then I said to myself, do I reply to him or do I just ignore him? So, I'm a changed person now. Before I would have replied to him, but now so I just ignored it. Because if you know the history of Sierra Leone, you will know that Desmond Luke was not an SLPP Chief Justice. This is the problem. A lot of the time now in Sierra Leone, without exaggeration, especially those in the diaspora, they know very little about the contemporary politics of Sierra Leone.
Well, I want to talk about this contemporary politics, Winston. We quickly they run out of time, and I've been giving me what they we go
No,
try
fine.
for done this program
I'm
in
fine.
a certain
Because
limited
I want
time.
to touch on
We
I
are God
want to
for
touch
you
on
in the
the
public.
no problem.
So yeah, I want to talk about that. But before I go to that contemporary politics, Brother Daniel Rogers seems to be very active in the chat room. So, and this goes directly to you, and I make a pick on that. Maybe you want to address them. Winston, there is a difference between individuals and a political entity. Legally, there was a one-party state, and so there was no SLPP.
Now, did I say there was SLPP? No, I didn't say that. What I said was very simple and straight. This is the problem. This is the problem. This is where we have an issue. People twisting conversations. I don't say there was SLPP and APC. I'm very deliberate. I'm not responsible for what I say. If you don't understand what I'm saying to you, that's your problem. Okay. Listen back. With the exception of the late Manapaka, the only person is dead now, is late now. The only person who did not, when Shaka Stevens declared a one-party state in Sierra Leone, the entire SLPP lot, from the top man right down, all of them, they had a choice, like Manapaka did. They had a choice to say, no, we'll go independent. Of course, somebody will tell me now that Shaka Stevens would have killed them. Of course, very convenient. But they had a choice to have said, no, we're not going to be part of the one-party system. We step aside.
Okay,
but none of them did.
That's understood, and I'm sure Mr. Rogers has got a message.
None of them
somebody
did.
Who just expressed good sentiment in your behalf, which is, I love this message. You don't govern with malice. Somebody loved that message that you just gave. But let me go back to this. That's absolutely fine. But I'll go back to this issue, and I think say at some point in this program we talk about in which they refer to as a cultural change. As a cultural
I was going to touch on that now, because I want to touch on the issue of
please do.
Let's first of all, for instance, with regards to the APC, right? Because for a long time it was the APC that was governing, of course, with the people I just mentioned. Now the APC came back to power via Ernest Koroma and governed for 10 to 11 years. And then, of course, now we have a situation where we have a lot of people, including on this your platform, attacking or saying Ernest Koroma should go, or APC this, APC is that. One thing I want to get people to understand: the SLPP that is governing now is not the SLPP under the late Pakaba, another decent soul. We all, as you rightly said at the beginning of this program, we all have our own faults and imperfections. But Pakaba was a decent man. In government, the people who work with him, who govern Sierra Leone with him, 90% of them are not part of what is now called the SLPP. The SLPP governing now came with a doctrine which is Paupa. And it is that Paupa that attacked the alleged corruption and perceived corruption of the APC and promised Sierra Leone that we are changing, we are turning the page. And Sierra Leoneans, we are looking forward to a better governance system. Instead, what we have is a situation where they started comparing notes with the APC. Oh, if APC do this, we shall win. Now APC, this is what is happening now. So then we have the APC. I thought about it. The APC, there's a saying that the bull in the China shop. I don't know if you know that phrase. What we have, what we have within the APC structure now, it's not a bull. We have the mines, you know, they're small artery running around the China the shop, the China shop, they'll copy what we do, to call them China, right? We have mines running around the shop, and the manager of that shop has a stick, chasing them around, hitting them and destroying all the China in the shop. You understand? Meanwhile, our neighbor, who happens to be the SLPP, they are smiling, say they walk all it inside the shop. Let we go here, we go to get customer, we go to sell more. That is what is happening within the APC. The APC has become a China shop with mines going all over the place with the shopkeeper with the long tick. The type of what
when you say meanwhile our neighbor, are you associating yourself with the APC, or not just analogy they give, say the other they chase the other? What is it?
Sir, I am APC to the core.
Okay, so I'm
not here as an APC. I'm here.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, brother Winston. Thank you so much for the clarification. I don't hold you to that. I mean, just the ask for
right.
It is my right. I read something quickly. I read something quickly again, because this goes to you, and maybe you're able to address them quickly. And this is from a sister Matilda J. Cole. What will be interesting will be for you to list by recollection. Listen to this. For you to list by recollection people who are currently SLPP, but who held prominent positions in Sierra Leone, just as you have revealed for Prince Adin. Remember, at some point in this conversation, you talk about Prince Adin stood as a candidate for the APC. So the sister is what could be justifiable if you can equally list the opposite? Will you, sir?
Opposite in what context? In what context? Like
in other words, if I understand and well, and I stand to be corrected, there are people in terms of the same politics we describe. There are people who belong to the other side, but who stood as candidates for the other side, or before they became parties or members to the other side, they stood for those sides, just like in the case of Prince Adin.
Okay. You see, that would be the 1996 election that brought late President Kaba to power, when we had a proportional representation. And during that election, we had several parties, including parties headed by the late Temu Bangura, and we had the likes of Kemo Sise and others who were not APC. They belong to several other parties. And including at one time, people tend to refer to even former President Nkrumah as not being APC. Yes, President Nkrumah at one time belonged to a political party, but you have to remember that before that, President Nkrumah also was APC in Makeni and was going to contest election in Makeni, but was stopped by Shatta Stevens. So the issue of APC SLPP is I was explaining to somebody who was talking about NGC and others, with the greatest respect. You see, what we have in Sierra Leone is very similar to what we have here in the UK to a certain extent, and even more so in America. For the foreseeable future, whether people like it or not, the political battle in Sierra Leone is going to be between APC and SLPP. That because you see, when you talk, the reason why the NGC won the seat they won in Canberra, not because of the Palavana APC. The reason, not because they thought Kanda Yumkela, with the greatest respect, or that they see Yumkela. No, that the Palava, the division within the APC, that is why Yumkela won seat in Canberra. The same applies to Kono. The same applies to Kono. C4C won seat in Kono because of the division within the APC.
Okay, Mr. Macauley, so much thanks for that. Make I just address
one. The other thing, just before you come in, I want to say something.
Yes,
another thing where they create the problem in Sierra Leone, this is for both the APC and the SLPP. You see, the SLPP and the APC, they both talk about constitution. Politics is both local and universal. Politics is local in the sense that I, Winston Ojukutu-Macauley, born of Freetown, cannot go to Kenema or Makeni or Bond and say I want to represent you now at Parliament. It's not possible. That is the local aspect of politics. You can expand on that. The universality of politics is that you get into politics to gain political power, to govern. You do not go into politics for take party, go court, for go interpret the constitution. The Republican Party don't have a constitution. The Conservative Party don't have a constitution. The Labour Party don't have a constitution. I can carry on. It is only us trying to copy the white man that end up being fools. That is what we do. You see, it's true. You go into what are the policies of the SLPP, apart from their manifesto. All those who are now coming up wanting to be flag bearer of the APC, what are your policies to address the youth unemployment and the hopelessness in the country? What are your policies for the mining industry, health and social care? What are your policies? All you say is that I want an Escoma for his eye. I be old pass an Escoma when an Escoma. Then you come to the SLPP, answer for our girls. What are your other policies? You told us that you will change the economy within 3 months or so, or within 2 years or so. What is happening now? We don't have. You see, so this is the problem.
All right, I like that, and I really like the tone of the conversation that we are having tonight, because we are addressing issues, just like over a pint or something like that. Very casual, but very, very interesting, and I really like this. And this is not the kind of conversation where they look forward, only try for advocate for, because we're talking about the soul of we nation. Remember, we did at a crossroads. We are almost like 60 years old, and even now we're not able to fulfill we national identity. And some people, they can get difficult for understand where are you and where I am. Whereas we suppose, even though we get with differences, there's supposed to be one common denominator, which is the common good for the country. So we're having this conversation tonight with a veteran journalist, Mr. Winston Ojukutu-Macauley, whom I very much appreciate for being on the platform here tonight. Going back again, here to the chat room just very quickly, and I think this will be the last one. What will be interesting will be for you. Okay, I think I read that Yusuf Fofana, the only motive that can keep politics pure is the motive of doing good for one's country and its people. You're absolutely right, brother Yusuf. Absolutely right. That's very philosophical. And Sister Matilda J. Cole, also, what is responsible journalism and the cultural shift in the practice? Okay, I think I mentioned this a couple of times, and maybe this is me. So let's see whether I'm able to explain this quickly. So, Sister Matilda, we first of all get to understand what's in journalism. And journalism now one of the oldest professions as well. And in many constitutions around the world, you find out the journalism is mentioned inside, which means that they get a responsibility and they get protection and waiting for say and for say, waiting and get for say, which is holding government to account.
Correct.
That's as basic as that. If you cannot hold government to account and you become complicit in the plundering and looting, pillaging of the state, then of course that's not responsible journalism. It's partisan journalism where only na them you they praise and they sing praise for the people the way you suppose for you're responsible for. And remember say the reason why this terminology can be prominent now over the last 15-20 years, especially after the Iraq war, where George Bush take the Western nations then to war. This is just simplistic as that. And when I say simplistic, and I'm missing a simple thing because millions of people then lost their lives, but that's where things begin to change, because then you begin to journalism. If you not get contact with the Minister of Defense, the President, the Prime Minister, then you don't get news. And if you want to get news, which means that you get for compromise your values. That's exactly what I've been trying to speak to Sister Matilda. And the cultural shift what they talk about, especially in recent times, is like in Sierra Leone in particular, okay? With the breaking news of WikiLeaks, where now Sierra leaks via Africanist press, the government of Sierra Leone not be even they expect this at all. This take them by surprise, like you say. You finally see the emperor not get close. And when you see the nakedness of the emperor, that's dangerous. And that's what we are seeing now via the Africanist press. The first lady is wounded. Most people not quite use that analogy there, but this is just fact. She was caught off guard. It said things they were not be supposed to say. The Africanist press proven wrong. So this is a cultural shift, and most people are becoming conscious. Say, even people then within their own circle say, oh, but we didn't know this. So now this much is going on. So there's a great divide, and there's a national conversation ongoing right now as we speak. So now the cultural shift this. Cultural shift again means say people are still holding gun, although they're in the minority, for defend who that they belong to. I hope I've done justice to that, but if not,
you see,
of course, you can still
Mr. Prince, let me say something.
Yeah, Winston, you want to add to that, sir? Do you?
Let me say something to about this. Yeah, what you said is correct. About the first lady and which they go now. You see, I was privileged enough for Dana AYV television on the day me and the TJ Cole, the famous Sierra actor, both of us were kind of like advisor to Navu on the day when the first lady go launch Answer for Our Girls, na AYV. And I told one or two people there, I said, this is a fantastic idea, but only if it is well managed. As we all know now, we find ourselves in a situation where they refuse to take advice because greed took over. That's it. Apart from the malice, greed took over. And the situation is, I don't want to use any other word other than a very, very sad situation in Sierra Leone today. Because if you can see somebody did struggle, forget, well, how much was that lady trying to get for go India? About $30,000 or $40,000 or $40 or $100 or so for go. She was sick and she was looking for money, a nurse or a doctor. And then you read how much the first lady office they pay for furniture.
Yeah, Mr. Macauley, I want to hold your thoughts there, because you see, these thoughts are genuine and real. This is real. It almost physical. It's not spiritual. As something where you can touch and feel because it's having an impact on the ground. And I absolutely agree with you. So we don't address most of the issues there, you're concerning the chat room. So we come towards the end of the program, and time is never really enough. We will have the national conversation there. So I really want to go back to Mr. Macauley and allow him for touch on many different aspects, because most people they expect say that same raw corruption talk now with the campaign. Oh, the first lady thief 3 million or allegedly the chief minister. No, the conversation not really get for be exactly that. We can border around the conversation, which we are doing now for that offend the soul of we country, and that's exactly what we are doing. And let's say this again before I go back to Mr. Macauley. There is a need for the now that we must speak up, because if we don't speak up, we allow the people when they plunder the state for occupy. In fact, the people when they plunder the state, they are not really speaking. Just go and check it out. They're not really speaking. They are using second, third, and fourth parties to do the speaking and just muddy the waters, if you will like, for them. So therefore, the national conversation within the social media criteria is becoming, a sort of muddy up that most of us, they get confused. And this is also the entrenched politics where Mr. Macauley talk about comes in. That what you believe in, now day you day. So, and at the height of sycophancy, you are educated or purport to be educated, but you cannot distinguish between X and Y, between white and black. Therefore, that puts you beyond that. That's exactly what it is. So you see somebody, they thief you money, and then you still go on for support them on a different basis than at the height of hypocrisy, than at the height of mediocre, and then at the height of sycophancy. It can't be anywhere above that. And this just need for change based on the national conversation. That's why we all need for the way in. Whatever your opinion is, make it known. Don't be shy. It's your country. You might be living in the United States. You might be living in Europe or away from home. And you think, say, okay, that's them there. But remember about the larger family group. That's where they are. And that affects them, and that affects you in the long run, because there will be no country that we can call the Sierra Leone. Like the Sierra Leone, me and Mr. Ojukutu-Macauley grow up as opposed, because looking at him, we must be around the same age group when discipline been there, when integrity been there, when principle been there, when responsibility been there. It's no longer the same when people who are charged with responsibilities of the state can go bench and call camera because they get a powerful pulpit and then just speak lies to the people. You know, you just tend for confuse us. Mr. Macauley, I want to bring you come back quick points then, you know, before we end this program, because I definitely will have to bring you back. I have enjoyed every part of this.
What you are talking about, and which is still missing in Sierra Leone, is the desperate need of transformational, radical political leadership in Sierra Leone. And when you look at
repeat that again, the transformational, radical,
transformational and radical political leadership. Okay. That is what Sierra Leone. That is what you see. When you look at Singapore, you look at Vietnam, you look at South Korea, then from back, and then you look at present-day Rwanda. You understand? None of the political leaders there, or who were there, can tell you I am PhD, or I went to Cambridge and I have XYZ degree. No. It is, you see, being radical, being transformational has nothing to do with your education. There's a bit of it, of course, the education, of course, you have to know how to read the basics, you understand what I'm saying? But the gods, the love of your country, that sentimentality, on my tribe, na me family, na me auntie, na me mama, it's not there. We, from even those who are now fighting to succeed President Biu, to the how I describe them, the running mouse who running the mouse running chaos inside the China shop, with the manager chasing them with a stick.
With a stick and breaking all the rest of the China up.
Breaking all the China
all the point there, because like I say, we really don't run out of time. But I want to address a few issues there quickly. Trust me, Mr. Macauley, you are going to be back on the program, because I'm sure listeners have enjoyed this program. I have enjoyed it, and I think that the conversation is on. And this is exactly what the conversation is supposed to embody. Not what our usual talk, about the pay list, the of offend the heart and soul. I think we've had a conversation, which is good. But here is the thing. I want to let you weigh in on this same issue of corruption. So now, these are all, your own personal views then. So part of the corruption or WikiLeaks report, allude to the First Lady don't convert we money into something else. In other words, processes. So money come out, we're not supposed to come out, but then they say it's supposed to come out because the First Lady in office need for be furnished. First Lady finally admits to that, but say the money come out because the office in your office is an extension of the presidency in office. But fortunately for the Sierra Leonean people, not the first person for occupy the office. This office has been in existence. Tell me what's in the difference and how funny this entire episode is.
Well, I am fortunate to have known two of the former First Ladies, the late Mami Kaba, whom I know I knew very well, and we had a small tit-a-tat over the phone over his late, he's also late now, Junior Kaba.
One of the most educated First Ladies we've ever had.
Yes, I was doing Good Morning Freetown on Sky Radio, and there was an incident, and then I called to talk to Pakaba, late Pakaba, of course, about that incident, because I was going to, and the late Steve Roy, Karigoko, Steve. Both of us were doing a program on the radio, and I called Pakaba to explain to Pakaba that I was going to broadcast that program that morning, the following morning. And late Mami Kaba picked up the phone and said, who is this? The moment I said, good evening, ma. And she called me a particular name that you must have known me when I was a baby. To call me that name, and which is Bodri. Yeah. And she said Bodri. I was like shocked. I was like, I said, yes, ma. Good evening, ma. I said, now you the call for talk about your small brother. The rest, you understand? And a very disciplined woman. Isn't that you the call for talk to the president about your small brother? I said, you know to Charlie in Peking? I said, yes, ma. Something happened. I pam and I just want to clarify. You they call the president. You understand? But it is not the issue about her trying to stop the story. You understand? It was the approach. You understand? And in the end, I spoke to President Kaba about the incident. No one advised me not to publish, not to broadcast or don't broadcast. It was the discipline. There was no malice. There was no, who the hell are you for call? You understand? You can tell that you are dealing with somebody. You understand? The same applies to the First Lady, Madam Siakuruma. Of course, there was a time when we were all neighbors at Wilkinson Road. A late father built right behind our family compound at Zaiza, But that's not the issue. When they were in Conakry, after the coup, when I was reporting for the BBC, it was the late Pa Abu Kuruba, and of course my great big brother and friend, Charles Magai. When the likes of Prince Adin and others were saying, oh, what you Ojukutu to the report, we forgot to deal with that. And then the late Pa Abu Kuruma and of course Charles Magai, they told me on 3 different occasions that they advised Pakabase on a left people when I what can they do? This is what people don't understand. So what I'm saying is, let me learn. First, the 2 first ladies were matured. They knew the role of the first lady, and they were also sensible enough to listen and take advice.
When you say the 2 first ladies, who are these particular 2 first ladies?
The late Mami Kaba, Patricia Kaba, and of course the present former first lady who is still alive and well, and thank God for that, Mrs. Siakuruma. Those 2.
So you're not saying that the current first lady is not, it's not mature enough, or you will leave that to the general public of viewers, for
my honest opinion. My honest opinion, I think they have shown they've proven to be profoundly immature, and there's a level of greed that has led to what we are witnessing now today. That's my opinion.
Okay. Many thanks for that. And this is what true journalism is. No matter how inconvenient the other will feel, you speak truth to power. That's how you are trained, and you come from the traditional school. And I really like that. They can ascribe you to belong, but this is just the definition of what the profession is. And thank you very much for that. But here is the thing, Mr. Macauley. I just want to take you back because I'm recapping on the conversation we've just had. So earlier on, we spoke about you being the immediate, Umaru being, you being the predecessor of Umaru Fofana. And waiting happened after Umaru Fofana don't take over, from you. But of course, you've been very professional and kind in terms of your sentiment and your feeling, because we can understand that, you look down on Umaru Fofana as a younger brother. Nobody has no need for say this. I'm saying this. It's not you saying this, and everybody is seeing me saying this. And but here is the thing. Where do the people stand, Mr. Macauley? In other words, what I mean by outside the people and stand, because Alex say at some points the people and disagree with the way how Umaru been a report news, and you try to justify that because you've been in the office before. And I'll ask you this question just before we end the program: do the people have a right to protest? Do the people have a right for call Umaru into account? Do the people have a right for go to Umaru employer and say, look, the way how this guy they do things, these are our expectations. Of course, it can be bloated or overblown, but do they have a right for go and contest the way out the man they report the news?
Absolutely, they have 100%. I would even say 1,000% right to do it. If you're following the trend here in the BBC, Bashir, the guy who did the Diana story, is facing a commission of inquiries now. So it is not that you cannot challenge the BBC on their staff, but you have to convince the BBC that what Umar is reporting is not correct.
But
Or we are not.
that's
No,
what
no, no, no,
these
in fact,
people from my viewpoint, now these people let me do, because they pose a host of challenges. Them say, look at the story, this is what he did, and you yourself allude to that. Not particularly in the Umaru saga, but what we talk about journalism generally. You talk about the general investigation of story, the who, the what, the where, the when, and why. All NWs and then you spoke of. So the people that self-capitalize on that say, we've been watching this, whether or not from Pademba Road, the way it was reported, there are questions about the way it was done. Whether or not Makeni, whether or not Tombo, whether or not Lonsa. So the people do have a ground, and this is what I'm trying to establish. Do they? One final point on that issue there.
They have, like I said, 1,000% right for complaint and protest to the BBC. But like I said, and advise those who are still, I think, in communication with the BBC over the Umaru saga, is that you have to be convincing. That is it. You have to have a case. And I don't know what is the present situation, because after the protest, there were communications between the two groups, between the group and the BBC. I don't know how far they've gone with that communication.
But you don't think on this basis that these people can get a case? I mean, from your private position where you do now, I'm not putting you on the spot in any shape, sense, or form, but from your private position, Usa, you do now. Mr. Fofana has been reporting for quite a while. There are no.
It's the longest. To date is the longest serving. To date is the longest serving. Since 2000, January 2000.
Imagine that. That's a kind of a milestone. But here's the thing. One final take on this, Mr. Macauley, because one thing about us, whether you want to talk generally about Black people, or you want limit to Sierra Leonean people, of course, this just remains fact. Why we cannot separate emotionality from reality? In other words, Mr. Macauley get a profession for carry out, a blunder. Then I want to bring emotion can inside, but ain't where you been grab that money there in West no be, you kind of treat them well. You don't use for eat or soup, you know, eat your soup that day. So therefore, in brain not in the work right. What has this got to do with the professional thing where you supposed for you do on a daily basis?
Who is saying that? Who is saying that? Who is making that statement?
No.
Not me directly, not me, but generally, who is saying that, referring to who? That's what before I answer the question.
Oh, okay. So let me just make a quick clarification, because an analogy, and most of it was metaphorical. It was metaphorical.
I know it was. But I just don't want to. I don't just want to answer.
Okay, but here's the point, and I know you kind of get them well. My point what they try for make Mr. Macauley is like we need for separate emotion from the reality. And I'll make a specific reference, and I will let you deal with them and just wrap up the entire show. Which is, for example, the first lady of the country now as we speak is a very beautiful woman. Very beautiful woman. But what has the beauty got to do with if it pillage, the economy of the state, or the deep into some side you're not supposed for deep? What has sanitary parts where in many opinion in the public, has been overblown, overplayed, and why we cannot separate emotionality, from the reality, which is typical example. She was caught wanting. That's just the fact. It denied many things until the Africanist press put out irrefutable evidence out there. Irrefutable. Because up till now, they've not refuted the evidence. It's still there, including the chief minister, including the performance of the ACC boss, where they show award, but cannot show why the award is justified, except for a one-sided kind of view. That's what I am trying to allude to, Mr. Macauley. I give
Okay,
you
I will answer you. I will answer you. I will
conclude.
answer you. I will answer you, and I'll beg for forgiveness if I repeat myself. That one, what you're talking about is politics, is pure raw politics,
Absolutely,
and
I agree.
the country lacked a proper sober opposition, and as a result of that, we have a country being governed by people who don't even care. And then we have an opposition, not just the APC, the opposition in general, C4C, NGC, in such a disarray with no direction that if we as a country don't wake up and smell the coffee, the SLPP will govern again, and nobody will be held accountable for what the Africanist press and others are complaining about. And let me tell Sierra Leone, no international community is going to rescue Sierra Leone. They don't have that time anymore. You understand? So like I said, until a leader, a political leader emerges that is radical and transformational, that is not, do not see Sierra Leone as a business to enrich him or herself and his or her family or those around him, and see Sierra Leone as a country that we should love and all as a country, patriotism. We will continue to have the kind leaders we have now, including, I repeat myself, the mouse running chaos inside a China shop, right across the board, right? And Sierra Leoneans, very few, because of hopelessness and poverty, will be coming out and say, but Ojukutu talk now nonsense, because he or she is content with whatever little he or she gets from that class of people. That is what Sierra Leone, that's the state of Sierra Leone today. The only reason why, I mean, the other day, the opposition leader, Chino Charikuku, came out with a press release or statement appealing to APC to be united. Can you imagine that? You say you want an Escoma to resign. I'll wrap up now, right? In the meantime, you have another group saying, we don't want Fulaman for be vice president. That is Jule there. So now there's a battle going on within the SFP. It's not just APC. There's a battle going on within the SFP as well, right? And then you say until an Escoma and Yasane step down, we'll be going to court. Bunch of idiots. They like if we say now court to give you power. You understand? So you know, and then it is a very, very sad situation in our country. And people think that it is my right. But that my right again, I go blame President Koroma, former President Koroma. Because I tell every Tom, Dick, and Harry say, where court knows man knows court, he said go lick soup. That is why I say everybody is right for come out for be flag bearer and president of Sierra Leone. Take the country like a so small, so every Tom, Dick, and Harry come out and say, Mr. One be flag bearer. Then you have another group saying, oh, that man is a full man, this and that. So where are we, Sierra Leone? Where are we?
Where are we? Where are we? It's a profound question. Abiwala we end on that mostly because it's been very high, but I still want you dig in a 30 seconds, 45 seconds, from you if you really don't mind. Because at some point during this conversation, we talk about, or particularly me, a wind of change, a cultural change. We make one sister Matilda ask the question, what do you mean by this? Of course, I'm not saying that's something where you want to know what do you mean, because that wind of change. The idea here is, or the question here, Mr. Winston, and just 45 seconds or 60 seconds, do you feel that wind of change? Do you sense some kind of change? Do you have some kind of optimism, or are you still pessimistic about change in Sierra Leone? If you are pessimistic, why? If you are optimistic, why?
I am very pessimistic, and I am saddened by the situation in my country, because I don't see amongst the class of people who are emerging from both parties or all the political parties that they have the radical or transformational genes that Sierra Leone needs. We have a situation. I mean, we live. You and I live in the Western world. You know, they have their faults. They're not perfect, but when it comes to the country, you see what is going on in Scotland right now. I told a certain member of parliament, former member of parliament, who called me the other day, that was telling me about, oh, if I don't go coach, if I don't go coach, stay at school. Now, see, you see what is happening in Scotland? You see what happened? You see what is happening in Scotland? Today they released the statement. There is no sentiment, no ifs and buts. And these were two close friends. That is politics. You go into politics to gain power. You don't go into politics to gain power, to transform the lives of people, to make people's lives better. You do not go into politics to tell the people that the government who been there before been do this, so I'm going to do this. The government who been do this, or I'm going to do that. No, you go into politics to gain power, to transform the lives of people, to make people's lives better, and for people to be proud to say, I'm a Sierra Leonean. And for now, we don't have that class of people vying to be president of the Republic of Sierra Leone. And it's a very sad situation.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, it's been, oh, goodness me. I mean, Mr. Ojukutu-Macauley, I mean, it's been a very good run. And I have no doubt that the audience and thousands of other people are going to watch this globally are going to see what the national conversation is beginning to look like. And I really appreciate your company this evening. It's your first time on the Then and Now, but definitely I don't feel it's going to be the last. And I hope that you will come back again sometime soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Okay, Fambule, we don't come to the end of another beautiful run of a program, very interesting program, and we'll be get Mr. Winston Ojukutu-Macauley, who is a household name, by the way, but for conventional reason, we're going to continue for introducing him and etc. And one final read from the chat room. Jonathan Sandy, issues-based public policy campaigns will be the focus in 2022, 2023. New party intend to build on NGC and C4C gains. We must be looking to work together to see Sierra Leone as a coalition country. Yeah, okay. I see where the brother, where Mr. Sandy is coming from. Definitely.
Can I say, can I advise him that no disrespect to our country and to
30 seconds.
People.
30 seconds.
Yeah, no, I'm done. No disrespect to Sierra Leone.
No disrespect
but
to
the
our
level,
country. Okay.
but the level of education and political maturity is not there for people to understand any dynamism or narrative of a new political party.
Okay, so Mr. Ibrahim Kamara is watching. He says here, it's true about Sierra Leone. The people do not have the right to talk. Mr. Almami Kamara is watching. Mo Adams, England and America, where present government do wrong, now them they blame. But Salone is different. Any bad way Mother Bio and INWEF and government do, now APC and Escoma then they blame. Una way, I absolutely agree. But there's a reason why, and I will tell you the reason why in my summation, Mr. Mo Adams. Jonathan Sandy again, I'm pleased you mentioned the proportional representation model of electoral system used in 1996, and that is alluded to Mr. The guest, with all due respect. I think then and now conversation should explore which electoral system or model best suits Sierra Leone, blah, 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 blah. Of course we will do. That's what the national conversation is about.
But the politician in parliament will have to change that, and they will not.
Yeah, they will not. So we need for begin for gravitate towards people's power, Ojukutu. And
Yeah,
I really
yeah,
believe
I
this.
agree.
It
I
has
agree.
to be
I
people's
agree.
power. How for
I agree.
how for first of all conscientize with people and how for
Yeah,
mobilize them. So
yeah,
collectively we will become a force for reckon with. Other than that,
I agree.
nothing is going to change. It has to be about
Absolutely.
the people.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
absolutely.
We
You're
have,
welcome.
this is Kanu Aliu. We have an ACC commissioner that is being controlled by the government by
Yep,
choosing the people he is prosecuting in corruption. Mr.
yep.
Aliu, this I can say is quite true. I know they hesitate for say that any longer because once upon a time, I was one of those people who believe in the present commissioner, Mr. Ben Kaifala. Make
Myself here.
program to that effect.
Myself.
I try to get news from him so I can broadcast because I believe in the rhetorics. Now I know rhetorics. All what he was saying is a holy war. It's a war that has to be won. The fight against corruption, but we see for ourselves, so no one needs to tell us. Thank you so much, Ibrahim Kamara. Thank you, guys. Thomas Banks, boasting of fake PhDs. Yes, Kemosi says watching. Daniel Rogers, transformative and radical political leadership can be achieved through with political parties. If men be good, government cannot be bad. If men be good, government cannot be bad. Sound very philosophical. Only that here we are.
It is the same. It is the same, Prince. It is the same with people say APC, SLPP. It is not the party. It is not the APC or the SLPP. It is not the color, or the green or the red. No. It is not the party. It is the people within the parties.
Okay, the
So
people. Thank you very much.
It is not APC or SLPP. It is the people that
and that forms me blog. That forms me blog for tomorrow. Exactly what you say. What you say, sir. It is the people. So Ali Jallo, thank you, Winston. Please tell them. Even Tony Blair is not a degree holder, but he wise and rule. I think somebody disagree with you, and that's Daniel Rogers. Immediately say, no, Blair is a degree holder, and this is the difference.
No, I did not mention Tony Blair.
Which people, Gordon Brown, and they are all degree holders. Waiting and carry now the title they carry. Where we saw one boast of Dr. This, Dr. That, and what have you. So all these people are degree holders. The only person who I believe say not to be degree holder, or even if you may get degree, but come up from a different class. Now John Major. Yeah,
John Major is an accountant. It was not a degree, he's a certified accountant.
There we go. So Blair is a degree holder, Mr. Daniel Rogers. Let's confirm that. Jibas is watching. Daniel Rogers. Blair graduated from Oxford University in 1970s. And this is what we're talking about.
I never mentioned Blair.
Throw the conversation out there. We have to refer the conversation. In other words, make a reference. If we want for that, we company and land. So yes, the brother will make the submission could be mistaken because I should be understandable. Because if you used to that salon mentality, all man are PhD, I graduate from here, I graduate from there, but it's not even effective. These people are all degree holders, the Tony Blairs, the Gordon Browns, but they don't talk about it. In fact,
no, even Prince, I'm doing a program now at Middlesex University. I have 4 professors. You will not know they are professors unless you read their bio.
Absolutely. This is not something, where I agree with and something where we know. You don't know. Not for people that the most of that. And Daniel
I call them James. One I call James, the other I call Sophia. There's no doctor.
John Major was only a 6th former. So in terms of conservative culture, in fact, he was an outsider, in many degree and many respects. So he was a 6th former and not within that conservative circle as we sabi him. Okay? Matilda, Mr. Ojukutu-Macauley, the presenter of Salon Issues, would like to have you on that platform, the people's request. So what I take from here, there's an invitation for you on that platform. So now get in touch with them. But if they do get in touch with me, I seek your permission publicly for give them.
Go ahead. Let me just say something about John Major. John Major, if you remember, succeeded Margaret Thatcher. How did that happen? Michael Heseltine was heading for Downing Street, but because basically, in a manner of speaking, stabbed with Jeffrey Howe, former foreign secretary, because it was Jeffrey Howe who made the speech in Parliament, and then Michael Heseltine stood up and said, "Well, I'm going to contest for the leadership of the Conservative Party," And then they went all out to prevent Michael Heseltine succeeding Margaret Thatcher.
From
But what
succeeding.
happened?
Okay, the rest is history, Mr.
It's
Macaulay.
history.
We've run out of time. I get what you say.
There was no court. They never went to court.
Junior J, with all their maturity, first ladies, what legacy did they do? What impact, positive change? Mr. We just talk about that. It's about the legacy. What legacy are they leaving? They're not leaving legacy. It doesn't look like they're even interested in legacy. It's about enriching themselves. We see that no one really needs to tell us. And this is what I've been appeal to the guests we've been talk. Say we need for separate the emotionality.
Correct.
Okay? That's what we need for separate. The people are looting the banks. They are looting the national treasury. And we are seeing it for ourselves. Why can't we call it as it is? Of course we can. Now, emotionally, make we not do one. Mr. Moses Dumbuya, very much thank you for watching. Mr. Philip Bangura, thank you for watching. Gloria Harding Thomas, thank you for watching. Nim Sirioni Wuta. I hope I pronounced that right. Many thanks for that. You look like a first timer because your name is unique. I'm just seeing this name for the first time. Prince Charming, Charlie, and available soon, Zoom in the office today. But be back with me. Know when you are ready to go out tonight. But blah blah blah. I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, Junior J and what blah blah blah. So again, we've come. There are many comments that are coming on. Finally, Mohammed Kamara, it has been a very good conversation. Kudos to the moderator and the guest, which I very much appreciate, Mr. Kamara. Thank you so much. So far, we don't come to the end of a wonderful, wonderful program. Talk in political circle, it can be cheap but costly. We get a very, very special guest here tonight, and our guest is making points in clear, and we try to forget that. Normally, we can come with that same old rubbish talk, thief 2 million. No. The national conversation for let we enhance them, it get for be coherent, it get for be moderated, it get for be simplistic in the sense that we make a known to we people like what we talk about. And I sure say we guest tonight has been phenomenal. Mr. Ojukutu-Macauley, thank you so much, sir. And we look forward to having you again. It's been a pleasure.
Problem.
So, family, and just like we begin, and my friend Supermed can say, we'll not forget, you get Chief Tonkler, another APC contestant, aspiring candidate. Chief Tonkler will be on the platform.